We are halfway, or in some teams' cases, more than halfway through the 2022 regular season, depending on their team's bye weeks. And over the course of the first half of the season, some rookies have made very big impacts on their teams and have paid immediate dividends and look to have a very bright future. And in today's video, we are going to be grading picks 1 through 16 in reverse order. So we will be starting with Jahan Dotson of the Washington Commanders and ending with Travon Walker of the Jacksonville Jaguars. I do want it to be noted an A+ grade is reserved for truly the rare home runs of the class, or seemingly the home runs of the class. An example from 2021 would have been Ja'Marr Chase and Micah Parsons for reference. There's 16 picks to dive into, and without further ado, let's begin. Jahan Dotson of the Washington Commanders is up, and through the first 4 games showed a ton of promise. He had 12 receptions for 152 yards and 4 touchdowns. He was named the Rookie of the Week after an NFL debut, in which he had 2 touchdowns in a victory over Travon Walker and the Jags. Unfortunately, he's missed the last 5 games due to a hamstring injury, but he was promising, and through half a season, he gets a B+. Kenyon Green, the guard for the Texans, went number 15 overall, and he's shown a lot of good mixed in with some bad. When he gets his hands on people in the run game, it's over. And not surprisingly, as a rookie, he's been bullied at times in the pass game, most notably by Javon Hargrave of the Eagles. Hargrave truly has grown man strength, but Kenyon's allowed just 2 sacks in 266 passing snaps. He's been a good run blocker, but needs to improve in pass pro. He's given up quite a few pressures that I think will improve over time. I love Kenyon's upside, and right now, we give him a C+. Kyle Hamilton fell to pick 14, where the Baltimore Ravens quickly snatched him up. Aside from a game against the Dolphins in which they gave up 42 points in a comeback win for Miami, Kyle has played very good for a rookie safety. There was a clip in training camp where he was cooked by a receiver in man coverage, but that's not his game. Kyle isn't supposed to be the next Darrelle Revis as a safety from a man coverage standpoint. He's played very well, and the Ravens are a factory of producing good defensive players, and Kyle is no exception. A- through the first half of the season. Jordan Davis is up for Philly, and this is a player whose difference is known when he's on the field. An example of this is in Week 1 when the Lions ran for 181 yards and 3 touchdowns as a team. They averaged 10 yards per carry when he was not on the field versus just 2.9 when he was on the field. With Jordan, you have to remember he will never be a big stat guy personally, but the defense will play better with him on the field. He is so damn big right in the middle of the defense. He will also play more as he gets more into the league and is currently out with a high ankle sprain, but through half a year he gets a B- with the grade likely going much higher over the course of his career. Jameson Williams for Detroit is up, and this is a player who tore his ACL in the national championship game for Alabama. He has not played a down in the NFL yet, but I am very excited for him and Amon-Ra St. Brown to be on the field at the same time. They will present a ton of mismatches for opposing defenses, but for now, this grade is incomplete. The New Orleans Saints traded up for receiver Chris Olave at pick 11, and this was one of my favorite picks of the 2022 NFL Draft. Olave was the 3rd receiver taken behind former Ohio State teammate Garrett Wilson and Drake London of the Falcons. Chris has been very productive as a rookie, and that's an understatement. The lowest amount of receiving yards he has in a game is 41, and that's a very impressive stat in itself. I think we're seeing a glimpse of what he can do, and Olave will be a 1,000-yard receiver from day one, barring injury. I'm giving this an A, but if you want to give it an A+, I'd be fine with it, but my only comment would be, then what grade would you give Ja'Marr from 2021 to compare this to? Because Olave's rookie season and Ja'Marr's are nowhere close to each other. That's no disrespect to Chris as much as it is respect to Ja'Marr. So through half a season, we give Olave an A. Garrett Wilson of the Jets is up, and he's quietly put together a solid rookie season. He had an unreal week 2 against the Browns, in which he had an 8-catch, 102-yard, 2-touchdown performance. Now, he did have some down weeks due to a multitude of things, such as Breece Hall making a case for Rookie of the Year before tearing his ACL, and Zach Wilson not playing great football himself. But Wilson has picked it up in a big way the last few weeks and shows flashes that he will be a number 1 receiver for a long time. For a 17-game season, he would be on pace for 79 receptions for 984 yards and 4 touchdowns, with a string of games he wasn't getting the ball in, and that's very impressive. An A- grade for Wilson, though I expect this to go up by season's end. Charles Cross, the Seahawks left tackle, is up, and aside from a debut against Bradley Chubb, formerly of the Broncos, Cross has been good and looks to be a franchise left tackle. He's a part of what's an insane Seahawks draft class, and this team truly knocked it out of the park in April, and it started with Charles Cross. He's allowed just 2 sacks in his last 311 pass blocking snaps, and for all of the credit we rightfully give Geno Smith for the season he's had, some of that credit goes to the big boys up front, and especially to Cross for stepping in from day one and playing the part of a good left tackle. An A- grade, and given he is still just 21 years old, I expect this to only go up from here. Drake London of the Atlanta Falcons is up, and this is a little more than just saying he's not as productive as Wilson or Olave have been, so we're just going to give him a C or C+ and call it a day. The Falcons' pass game is a mess for both London and 2021 first-round pick Kyle Pitts, and neither can maximize what they are capable of. Through 10 games, Drake has 38 receptions for 407 yards and 3 touchdowns, and this is just scraping the surface of what he's capable of. Marcus Mariota is not the long-term guy, and that is very much holding him back. I do think he could be a perennial 1,000-yard receiver, but it's not being shown right now, and it's very frustrating. A B- grade, and I do think this can only go up. Evan Neal, the big offensive tackle from Alabama, went to the Giants at number 7 overall, and Neal has had the typical rookie offensive tackle experience so far. We're not including injury in that, by the way. What I mean is there's been times and stretches of games where he's played very good, and him and Andrew Thomas look to be a dominating tackle duo of the future. But there's also been very bad stretches by Neal, but that is to be expected from a young offensive tackle. He currently has an MCL sprain, but the biggest thing to remember here is captain left tackle Andrew Thomas struggled a few years ago and has been fine. More than fine, really. And I think Neal will be too. Right now, it's a C grade, but by season's end, and by the end of 2023 for that matter, this should be much, much higher. Ikem Ekwonu is up, and aside from a Week 1 game against Myles Garrett of all players, welcome to the NFL, rookie, he's been a very good player for the Panthers and a huge bright spot on an otherwise bad team. Ekwonu has given up just 1 sack in his last 283 passing snaps, and to be clear, this is not including a Week 10 Thursday night game against Atlanta. But Ekwonu has paid dividends for the Panthers in a big way and looks to be a hit as a first-round pick. He hasn't allowed a sack since Week 2 against the Giants, and what's crazy about this is Ikem's biggest strength was the run-blocking game as a prospect. This is rare for an offensive tackle this early on to be this good, but right now it's an A, and I don't doubt an A+ grade in the future. Kayvon Thibodeaux went number 5 to the Giants, and his numbers in the game he's played do not look impressive. However, there's been a lot of times KT could have been called for holding that simply have not been called. Through all of this, he's had 4 games with multiple hurries, and the biggest thing to remember here for pass rushers is they take time. He'll be 22 in December, and while the numbers aren't there yet, they will be with time. KT has all the tools to be a good pass rusher from a motor standpoint, from a confidence standpoint, which in the NFL is huge, and from an ability standpoint. Right now it's a B, but this will go up with time. He has all the tools to be a future star. Speaking of future stars, it is Sauce Gardner of the New York Jets, and a player who will be in contention for Defensive Rookie of the Year. Sure, Sauce gave up a 42-yard catch to Stefon Diggs in Week 9. My response to that is, who cares? Over the course of a 60-minute game, he is going to get his. And Sauce has been targeted 46 times this year and has allowed just 20 receptions for 189 yards to a touchdown and 2 interceptions. Opposing quarterbacks have a passer rating of just 44.4 when targeting him. Sauce has been everything the Jets could have possibly hoped for and then some, and receivers have gotten lost in the sauce. I think he will be, if he's not already, a top 5 corner by the end of the year. He is that good, and he gets a rare A+ grade. Corner Derek Stingley went to the Texans at number 3, and through the first 8 games of his career, he's shown a lot of flashes. Via PFF, he's been targeted 46 times and has given up 31 receptions for 405 yards, no touchdowns, and has had an interception. Given Stingley took a year off from college, I'm not surprised at all to see quarterbacks go after him because of how difficult of a transition it is to the NFL. The toughest position outside of quarterback is corner. The Texans have some pieces, and he and Dameon Pierce are both good pieces to work with in the long run. Right now, it's a B for Stingley, but rookie corners typically struggle, and Derek has played better than a lot of rookie corners. Sauce is, of course, an exception, but right now, Stingley gets a B. Aidan Hutchinson, the Michigan man, was the number 2 overall pick, and this is a player who struggled at the beginning of the season in a big way. He did have a 3-sack game against the Commanders, but I think it was more on Carson Wentz than Aidan truly making a game-changing play. The next week in Minnesota, Dalvin Cook stonewalled him on a red zone pass rushing opportunity for reference. But he has turned it on in the past few weeks, and there was a play a few weeks ago where he had a nasty spin move against the Cowboys that resulted in a sack. And this defense is not good by any means, so Hutch has had to do a lot of lifting on a bad team. Right now he gets a B+, but the sky is the limit, and he is improving every single week. Travon Walker was the number 1 overall pick, and what has to be remembered is he was drafted to develop and not to be a dominating force right away. He was selected by a team that had back-to-back number 1 overall picks, and they shouldn't have been expected to compete in the AFC from day one. He's still shown a lot of potential within this, like an interception he had back in week 1. The pressure he generates has been increasing as well, and at the moment is on pace for a 5-sack rookie season, which obviously isn't great for a number 1 overall pick, but with the raw physical ability he has, and with the potential he has, it's hard not to buy into not only Travon, but this team as well, as they most recently had a 17-point comeback win over the Raiders. For now, Travon gets a C+. And that's all I have for today's video. I hope you enjoyed. If you did, please like the video and subscribe to the channel, as it would mean the world. And until next time, as always, please be safe and have a great day. Love you guys.